Even after 10 months of intense fighting, the Israel Defense Forces is still busy confronting Palestinian terrorism across various arenas. I'm Hanan Lishinsky, and this is an All Israel News Update, where today we will look at the IDF's efforts across numerous arenas, across a big chunk of the region in confronting Palestinian terrorism facing Israel. Now, for a start, let's remember the good news that we had. A couple of days ago, Qaid Farhan al-Qadi, who is a Bedouin Muslim Arab background Israeli citizen who was kidnapped by Hamas on October 7, was freed by the IDF. He was rescued by IDF troops operating somewhere, we don't know exactly, in the tunnel network under Gaza. And apparently he was found there without Hamas terrorists guarding him. We don't know exactly what happened, but the IDF found him and extracted him and rescued him from captivity after 326 days of captivity in Gaza. Now, since then, he has been brought to a hospital, he has been treated, and was released back home to his native city of Rahat in southern Israel. We've seen pictures and footage of the big party and the big celebrations of his family. He has 11 children, and he has been welcomed home. Now, this is the positive news. In less positive news, in recent weeks, the fighting has intensified again in the Gaza Strip. The IDF has had to announce several soldiers who have died as a result of the fighting, and it appears that the IDF has re-intensified its efforts there, especially in the southern Gaza Strip. So the cities of Rafah, which is on the border with Egypt, and Khan Yunis, just to the north. And the IDF has intensified its efforts to dismantle the Hamas infrastructure. So there has been some fighting, some gun battles going on, but the IDF is mainly focusing on dismantling, destroying house by house, the underground tunnel network and the shafts which lead to the tunnels from almost every home, as we have heard by many of the IDF soldiers who have been fighting in the Gaza Strip. Now, this has been happening as the hostage deal negotiations, the current round, which started out with great optimism, and the US officials who are involved in the negotiations have continued to express this optimism. However, they appear to now have been stuck again. There has been no progress for the past weeks, and against this background, the IDF has re-intensified its efforts of dismantling Hamas's infrastructure. So, summing up the activity in Gaza, which has been the IDF's main focus of fighting since October 7th and in the past months as well, the Palestinian health authorities, which remember are Hamas in Gaza, are saying that by now the death toll of Palestinians has crossed the number of 40,000. We're at 40,000, 41,000, something like that. But crucially, the IDF now says that over 17,000 Hamas terrorists have been killed in the fighting so far. In addition, let's remember that there are, for now, 107 Israeli hostages remaining in the Gaza Strip that haven't been found and haven't been rescued so far. Now, as we continue this overview, I just want to quickly mention two arenas which haven't been focused on a lot when it comes to Palestinian terrorism, and these are Lebanon and Syria. In those two countries, we have Palestinian refugee camps similar to the ones in Judea and Samaria, as well as the Gaza Strip, where Palestinian refugees fled during Israel's War of Independence and have since lived in those camps, which by now are basically normal towns in Lebanon and Syria. Now, these Palestinians, part of them are also recruited into Palestinian as well as Lebanese terror organizations, and many of them have been working under the umbrella as part of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, under the umbrella of Hezbollah, or as part of Hamas in Lebanon and Hamas in Syria, and have been working against Israel from there. The IDF has in recent months carried out numerous airstrikes against Palestinian terrorists in Lebanon, and just a couple of days ago, in a very rare announcement of its kind, the IDF actually publicly took responsibility for a strike it carried out in Syria on the highway between Beirut and the Syrian capital of Damascus. And the IDF said that 3 terrorists of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad organization, which is known to be working very closely together with Hezbollah, were struck while they were traveling in a vehicle there. Apparently, these terrorists were on the way from Syria to Lebanon to carry out some kind of terrorist activity against Israel from southern Lebanon. So this arena is also in the focus of the IDF in recent weeks. So now let's turn to Judea and Samaria, which for the past years has been the main focus of IDF counter-terror activity, but has taken a backseat in recent months after the fighting in Gaza started. 2 days ago, the IDF began what probably is the largest scale operation in Judea and Samaria for the past 20 years. A force equivalent to 2 whole brigades has been operating in several cities, mainly in northern Samaria, including Jenin, including refugee camps like Nur al-Shams, Al-Far'a, and several other towns and smaller communities in northern Samaria. The most significant achievement of this operation so far has been the killing of a terrorist known as Abu Shaja. He was killed in a firefight yesterday night in the in the city of Tulkarem, while he was hiding in a mosque, actually. So he and 4 of his colleagues of terrorists working under him were hiding in a mosque when IDF forces encircled the mosque and went on in a firefight to kill Abu Shaja. Several other terrorists and another senior terrorist was apprehended at the end of the firefight. The root of Israel's problems in the West Bank lies with its location. Judea and Samaria, also called the West Bank internationally, lies along Israel's longest border, which is some 300 kilometers long, over 180 miles, its eastern border with Jordan. This border is very difficult to surveil and is being used by weapons smugglers, many of them funded and operated from Iran to smuggle weapons into the cities of Judea and Samaria. Since October 7, the IDF has said that over 4,000 terror attacks were committed either in Judea and Samaria or being directed from Judea and Samaria inside Israel. Many of these attacks have either directly been supported and even ordered by the Iranian regime, or were carried out by terrorist cells whose weapons, whose supplies, whose funds were transmitted from Iran either directly or indirectly through other terror organizations. Iran has been funding these terror cells, has been trying to create more and to proliferate more of these terrorist cells in more areas. And even here in the hills surrounding us, even in the hills surrounding Jerusalem, these terror cells can be found and are being funded and equipped by the Iranian regime. Probably the biggest factor spurring the IDF to carry out this large-scale attack at this moment, even though forces are needed elsewhere, is the increasing threat and the growing concerns over the production of explosive charges in Judea and Samaria. In recent weeks, there have been numerous incidents involving these explosive charges, most notably, of course, the failed suicide bombing attempt in Tel Aviv just a few days ago, which could have ended in a huge catastrophe. Thankfully, it was averted when the suicide bomber apparently detonated his bomb too early. But apart from that, there have been numerous incidents involving IEDs, so roadside bombs planted sometimes under the asphalt of the streets and going off and exploding on Israeli forces operating in Judea and Samaria. And in addition, there was an attempted bombing of a civilian bus in Samaria, which also could have ended in a catastrophe. So the biggest fear that has been keeping IDF minds in Judea and Samaria busy is the revival of suicide bombings, the type of which we haven't really seen in Israel since the end of the Second Intifada, almost 20 years ago now. Khalid Mashal, one of the main Hamas leaders outside of the country, and he was in the past even the overall leader of Hamas before Haniyeh, who was killed. Khalid Mashal has explicitly said that Hamas aims to revive those kinds of suicide bombings in Judea and Samaria, and this is one of the main concerns for the IDF there at the moment. But it seems that the IDF has drawn some lessons from October 7. Even though there wasn't a major catastrophe yet, there wasn't a successful suicide bombing yet, the IDF has set out and has invaded or carried out an incursion in several Samaria towns simultaneously with large forces in order to prevent an eventual catastrophe. This seems like a lesson drawn from October 7, not to wait on the terrorists' success, but to act upon their intentions, and let's hope that this will have success. To stay updated regarding the IDF's fight against Palestinian terrorism across all arenas, and of course regarding all other news concerning Israel and the broader region, visit us on allisrael.com or on our social media platforms.